You recently did say in a tweet, XRP sits at the center of everything Ripple does. Can you kind of explain what you meant by that?
Well, I think people, I don't understand this, but well, first of all, I think we can all agree there's a lot of misinformation and sometimes disinformation in crypto Twitter.
Yeah.
That's not great for anybody. I sometimes think people like to paint a picture that is somehow like Ripple's given up on XRP.
Right.
I mean, that just doesn't make sense. Like, I mean, for a whole bunch of reasons. I mean, one is
clear it up.
Well, for me, that tweet was trying to like, let's just be very clear. When we think about, and as I said earlier, when we think about G Treasury, okay, so Ripple wants to be as a treasury management infrastructure player, we now can introduce things like Ripple payments. Ripple payments, some of those go through stablecoins, some of it goes through XRP. And that depends upon corridor, that depends upon currency pair, that depends, we want to deliver the best possible product to a customer at the best price. And sometimes that may be a stable coin, sometimes it may not. And people, I mean, frankly, something that's not widely known for your audience. There was a period of time where Ripple was minting in 2023, first part of 2023, Ripple was minting 20% of all USDC. That's because we were doing institutional payment flows and we used USDC. We also used USDT. We also used XRP. I don't look at the world and say, well, we are not XRP maximalists. There's going to be different chains for different solutions and different technologies. I think we have to start, and I mean this when I say we, I mean the whole crypto industry has to start with what problem and for what customer are we solving? Mm-hmm. If we just try to, it's like, hey, I have a technology and I just want to apply it to a customer. It's like, well, a customer doesn't think about it that way. A customer has a problem. How do we apply the right technologies? Yeah. XRP is very scalable, very fast, and very inexpensive on a per transaction basis. That makes it good for some things and probably less good for other things. That's okay. And Ripple will use other technologies in those situations. But if Ripple can go from managing tens of billions of dollars of payment transactions to hundreds of billions of dollars of payments transactions to trillions of dollars, and if XRP doesn't have 100% of that pie, but the pie is growing very quickly, like that's great. I'm happy. That's a really good place to be.
Breaking news, Ripple CEO confirms XRP is at the center of everything Ripple does. And during today's episode, we're going to show our listeners how a combination of ETF demand, new use cases, and Wall Street companies pitching the idea of blockchain products is leading us to the perfect storm that we've been anticipating here in 2025. We're also going to show our listeners some of the groundbreaking clips out of Swell. We have a BlackRock representative predicting trillions of dollars are entering the crypto market. We have an ETF executive out of BITWISE predicting that the XRP ETF will outpace Solana after the initial launch this fall. And maybe the most important part of this whole analysis, executives like Brad Garlinghouse confirmed they believe the Clarity Act is coming in 2025, unlocking the floodgates and opening up use cases for XRP in the USA. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Good Evening Crypto, your favorite crypto news related channel. And if you enjoy this content, smash that like button and subscribe as you're going to get an update every single day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. Now, the one thing that's absolutely clear here is Ripple's commitment to the success of XRP. And whether it's the launching of the treasury company that's going live on the NASDAQ and EverNorth, we've got real world use cases coming live starting in 2025. But more importantly, the success of XRP is inevitable with the success of Ripple products. The more organic demand that Ripple is able to create for the underlying asset in XRP, the higher the price appreciation will be because there'll be more people competing for the same amount of tokens. What I think Brad does a great job of highlighting there, Johnny, is that XRP's success isn't dependent on Ripple, but Ripple will fuel many of the use cases that lead to XRP's success.
For me, why I'm invested in XRP is for that very reason, is you have this massive company that has a boatload of cash and they are building an ecosystem. But the best part about the ecosystem they're building is they're building it with XRP being a benefactor of that. So as you heard Brad say, hey, look, we may pull in 100 million or 200 million or $1 trillion of cash settlements here and there, whatever products we're doing, right? And at the end of the day, some of it may be USDT, some may be XCC, but some of it's going to be XRP. I've been in technology 28 years. You can't just slap one product on everything. You can't just like take one screw and go, this screw I'm going to use to solve everybody's problem. It doesn't work that way. And the nice thing is XRP is at the center of most of those solutions. And that's where it gets very exciting. So It's very, very promising to hear him say it over and over again. But I'm totally convinced they are full boat, doing everything possible. Yes, they want to grow Ripple, the company, to make profits for the company, but they are also very, very engaged in growing XRP, the crypto or blockchain technology, if you will. And to me, Abs, that's why I think XRP will have an advantage over other blockchains in the future because of the backing behind it that Ripple is bringing to the table.
Very much agree, Johnny Crypto. And there's a lot of interest from Wall Street companies in particular, as we're going to listen to an ETF issuer here in a BitWise representative. BitWise CEO says there's a huge demand for the XRP ETF and believes XRP will end up outperforming Solana after the initial launch. Here it is.
Do you think an XRP ETF would outperform the Sol one that we just spoke about?
I think it'll be a huge product. There's a ton of interest in XRP. You know, my colleague Matt Hogan, our CIO, likes to say that the death of an ETF is apathy. And apathy is certainly not one of the elements of XRP. There's a lot of energy and interest and enthusiasm. So I think, you know, there's $100+ trillion that live on traditional rails. And more of that is migrating on chain. But nevertheless, there's $100 trillion there. An ETF is often the first time that much of those assets can tap into exposure to an asset. And I think if they have the opportunity to have exposure to and trade XRP, it'll be a very useful and high demand product sometime.
So Johnny, we even said this during yesterday's episode that with these products going live in November, we're going to be able to actively track the inflows. And we got an official announcement out of Canary Capital CEO on stage at the Ripple event yesterday, where he said November 13th, this project is scheduled to go live on the NASDAQ. So smash that like button if you're excited about XRP ETFs officially going live. And now we have a Bitwise representative doubling down and saying there's significant interest from institutions right now. And this is really going to get kicked into overdrive here with the ETFs and the XRP Treasury also going live on the NASDAQ. This is a brief video from Ashish Birla live from the Ripple Swell event yesterday, where he's describing how his company is focused on bringing DeFi use cases to the XRP ledger.
Rebuilding the financial ecosystem doesn't happen overnight. So, hey, listen, there's ways to accelerate the acquisitions that Ripple has done is great. And I think that'll accelerate adoption. Again, bridging traditional finance to crypto. But then there's a lot that I'm excited about building directly on the XRP ledger as well. And, you know, that's what I'm excited about with my new company, EverNorth, which is a XRP digital asset treasury. I think that is going to be a wedge that helps traditional institutions that want exposure to crypto be able to participate and get exposure, and in the future, get exposure to DeFi, but as easy as holding a stock. Right. So you can just go into your portfolio and you can add XRP EverNorth, and you'll get access to a lot of what crypto has to offer.
And that's that mass inflection moment that we've been talking about, Johnny, because ease of access is everything in the crypto market. If every single prime broker across the country can say, hey, let's get a little exposure to XRPN, not only are you going to get exposure to the XRP price appreciation, you're going to take advantage of the yield opportunities that exist in the DeFi market.
Yeah, I actually think this is a whole new entire business model for companies. I mean, EverNorth wouldn't exist if XRP didn't exist. So you're literally seeing it mature and happen, manifest right in front of our eyes, that we are literally seeing new business models, innovations, financial innovations coming, where companies are trying to figure out how can they bring this to institutions, right? And what I like about this, when you think about like an XRP spot ETF, for example, if you want to expose an institution can go buy an XRP spot ETF, right? They're going to be coming soon. But the difference between that and something like an EverNorth Abs is what you just stated earlier, is EverNorth provides two things. Not only do you get access to it, but they're also building a yield mechanism into it. Now, it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out and what kind of yields that's going to return. But who doesn't want to earn? It's extremely exciting to me because we know most of our users, they want to earn on their XRP. Well, this could be another mechanism for you to be able to do that, is maybe rather than buy an XRP, you buy EverNorth, and then you're getting the benefit of both XRP and the yield.
And guys, this is just one of many companies that was speaking live at Ripple Swell over the past 48 hours. We've shown our community this list several times, but I just want to confirm BlackRock, Fidelity, JP Morgan, MasterCard, Citigroup, BNY, NASDAQ, and many others have already spoken at the Ripple Swell event this week. And these are the brand new statements out of the BlackRock representative that was attending the Ripple event. Now, what's the key takeaway here? Institutions are arriving and trillions of dollars are moving from TradFi on chain. Here it is.
You know, who owns traditional securities today, right? If you take away the distinction that they're tokenized, that market will come, but in the short term, we need to prove out the utility. And there's two sort of separate segments of users that I think are going to be the earliest adopters here. And we need that market momentum in order to prove the utility to actually get the larger players to eventually come in.
So they are really seeking regulatory clarity. If they have regulatory clarity, they understand the rules of the road, they understand that the rules are there with the investor protection as, you know, kind of the North Star, then they can work within those rules. And I think they're all expressing an enormous amount of interest in getting more engaged in the digital asset ecosystem. Obviously, they're doing a lot of work already to tokenize fixed income, tokenize bonds, create stable coins. I mean, you're seeing actually a lot of activity within the banks themselves to get engaged in the ecosystem. But I think to get them really engaged in the markets, there has to be regulatory clarity.
There has to be regulatory clarity. And that's not our opinion, Johnny. That is the opinions of the most powerful companies in the American economy today. And this is relevant for token holders as well, because remember, guys, as the price increases, as there's more demand for this asset, it's going to be harder and harder to accumulate a meaningful bag of XRP. This is the new XRP rich list, just came out yesterday. 2,300 units get you in the top 10% of token holders on the planet. 8,000 units put you in the top 5%. 50,000 will get you in the top 1%. And 100,000 units, or 91,000 exactly, will get you into that top 0.5%. And this information is boring, Johnny. I get it. We've been through it a lot. But the truth of the matter is that people are just starting to understand that it's going to be really difficult to accumulate XRP after the mass adoption moment steps in. And we're talking about events that already occurred instead of events that we're predicting will occur, right? Right now, we're predicting tokenized assets. We're predicting ETF demand. Eventually, we're going to look at the asset class and say, there's X amount of tokenized assets and there's X amount of ETF demand. And my belief is, just like she stated on stage, after the passing of the Clarity Act, this market goes into a whole nother mode. And it stops being about developments and speculation, and it really starts being about demand and real world use cases. Floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm sure you're absolutely right there. I think that's really what the whole world is working towards. And you actually heard a couple, you heard Max say it, and you also heard the guy before that talk about these things take time, right? She's even said it, right? We're building adoption, but we're changing the whole entire financial system and how things work. And that just doesn't happen. Like, I hear everybody talk about this thing, flip of the switch. I laugh, like, flip of the switch. Like, listen, guys, it doesn't work that way. The flip of the switch will be later on. But what's going to happen is they're going to build all of these different financial instruments and technology, and which are going to dictate how the world runs. And that, Abs, is going to drive demand. And I think some of these treasury companies are trying to get ahead of that. They want to be buying these crypto assets because they don't really know how to, like with stocks, it's easy, right? You buy a stock, there's an earnings per share. Okay. And that's what's in. Then there's a multiplier factor. That's what it is. With crypto, people are still trying to figure out how are these things going to be valued in the long run. Well, treasury companies, if they start picking these things up and start holding them, and then their underlying value becomes based on, let's say, the total locked value in the system, right? I think that's going to be a replacement, if you will, for EPS. That's going to grow over time as adoption grows. And as that grows, that means you get price appreciation. Why do you think, you just said it yourself, there are multiple companies starting treasuries for crypto assets? And why is that? Because they believe the price is going to appreciate over time.
If you're enjoying this content, smash that like button and let us know, what is your 2025 XRP price prediction? Leave that underneath the video, but we're about to get into some more brand new clips out of Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse, where he's talking about the success of XRP, but he's also talking about just how much the regulatory environment has changed here since the election of Donald Trump. And we know Ripple's team has built a very close relationship with the United States government, and that starts with the sitting president, Mr. 47, Donald J. Trump himself. But this is Brad Garlinghouse talking about what's next for Ripple and their growth strategy developing the XRP ledger.
You'd be sitting here talking about how fast regulation is coming, or legislation is coming to the United States, a $500 million investment from firms like Citadel and Fortress. Like, did you think you would be here?
You know, I'll give you a very honest and very recent the answer to that. I just interviewed Patrick Witt from the White House on stage here. And as I was sitting there, I was the interviewer, which is a fun place for me to be versus the interviewee.
Much easier.
Much easier. But I had a moment of thinking about, I remember he was talking about, the president had talked about making America the crypto capital of the world on 60 Minutes. And I remember thinking to myself as I was doing this interview, like the fact that the president is on 60 Minutes talking about crypto, that alone, I would not have thought we would be here. So, I mean, look, the journey that many of us have been on with the crypto industry has been long. It's had ups, it's had downs. Certainly the SEC lawsuit that the SEC suing Ripple was a painful part of that chapter for Ripple. And I really think for the industry, because it was so important. But it is a much brighter day. And look, there's a lot of reasons for that, but a lot of it starts with a constructive engagement from the largest economy in the world. And I don't know why crypto ever had a partisan tone. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me why it got partisan. So I don't think about it necessarily as Republican or Democrat. I think of it as being pro-progress, pro-American leadership around these important technologies.
Andy
and we've heard this time and time again since the election of Donald Trump. We are going to become the crypto capital of the world, because if we don't do it, our global counterparts will. And the great example that I love to give is that if this market is worth $4 trillion today, and the largest people in this market are predicting 10, 12, 15 trillion in the next couple of years, why not have that growth wind up in the hands of Americans and bring that spending power back into the American economy, maybe even compounding, starting new businesses, and bringing new ideas forward, just like this great country was founded on. If you enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you all in the next one.
Good night.
So if you're looking to do the same strategies that we implement here on Good Evening Crypto, I would advise everybody sign up for Merlin and click on the I Trust Capital link below. Now, why did these two ideas play off one another? Merlin is going to allow our listeners to understand where they should be taking profit in this market. And I Trust is going to allow our listeners to take that profit tax-free through an IRA product. Now, that's not the best part about this. We are giving new clients a $100 sign-up bonus using the promo code GEC9. So I would encourage everybody, click on the link below the video, use promo code GEC9, and set yourself up for success during this crypto bull market.